George Nemanich, head coach of the Red Wing Wingers, nice enough to join us after practice here from Prairie Island Arena. George, before we start talking about the next game, I want to go back to the Faribault game. They were the #1 seed, maybe the favorite coming in, looking at the numbers. What do you tell your team going into that game? What was the mindset that they had?
Well, we did a lot of, I hate to say it, but we did a lot of trying to talk them down a little bit. I think we wanted to give our guys the impression that, hey, none of the teams that were left were teams that we necessarily couldn't beat or had to fear, and that we could go out and play our game, and if things fell right for us, we could beat anybody. And especially with Faribault, we went through and talked about their schedule, and the strength of schedule was certainly in our favor. And even though we lost more games than they did, we felt like we had played a much tougher schedule, and I thought that had made us kind of battle hardened, so to speak, going into the that game, the semifinal. So that was kind of the mindset, telling our guys, hey, you're just as good as they are, and certainly have been tested maybe even more than they had been in playoff-like games.
One of the things I found interesting when we were talking after the game was that all season long we've kind of talked about the defense, and the defense was a weakness coming in. And you had mentioned that they pretty much done a complete 180, and I thought they played a fantastic game and stopped a really high-powered offense. Yeah,
they did. I was really all four defensemen. The starting defenseman that we have, I thought, played tremendously well. We had not had maybe everybody on the same page all season long until maybe very late in the season, but they've continued to pick up their play, and guys, obviously Josh Menzing stands out because he's such a good player and he's a dominant player. But so too is Jack Struess has kind of moved into that role as well. And then also I'd have to say that I really have been impressed with Henry Yeager. He's really elevated his game, as has Dayton Johnson. So, I really felt good about their play in that game against Faribault. Had they not played as well as they did, with the confidence that they did, we probably wouldn't have won that game.
So now you face Rochester Lourdes in Rochester, a rematch of last season's section finals. What can you expect in that one?
Well, that's going to be a real difficult game too. It's a fast team, a skilled team. They're probably quicker than Faribault was. Not as big as Faribault, probably not as physical as Faribault. But they do have some skill guys and good team speed, I would say. And I will say this, they're very deep. I thought Faribault was maybe not as deep as Lourdes is, and that's something that concerns me a little bit. But I do have to say this, I have been impressed with the way our guys have played over the last few games, and really we've kind of extended our depth here a little bit I think over the last 2 weeks of the regular season and then into the playoffs, we have really elevated our game, and so I feel pretty good about where our lineup is going into this game.
You beat them back on December 10th in Rochester. Then does that give you guys an advantage at all, seeing them and having beaten them this year?
I think it gives us peace of mind that we know we can beat them. I know last year when we faced them, they had beaten us actually earlier in the year, and so there was still that little bit of thought in the back of the mind that, well, maybe they're just too tough. But our team didn't lose that game because we were afraid of Lourdes last year. We lost it because they got a couple of good bounces, and then their goaltender played really well because we outshot them. We outplayed them in many respects, but they were able to come away with the victory because they had a very, very good first line. And, of course, they graduated a lot of guys just like we did. So both teams now, even though you might say, well, it's a rematch, both teams are very different. They're very young. We've got some holdovers from our team a year ago that we rely on heavily, but also we have some young guys too. So it's going to be a new chapter, you might say, in the Lourdes Red Wing rivalry.
And we've talked a lot about the first line, Patrick Neusen, Jared Nelson, Jake Oborski, but what I've seen in the last handful of games is the second line, the third line. Those guys have stepped up too. How key is that to making a deep playoff stretch, or a stretch run rather?
Well, we've got to have you have to rely on three lines. I mean, if you don't have that, it's going to be difficult to get very far in the playoffs. I mean, you can do it, but it's going to be tough. And we've done some things tactically to kind of help ourselves in that regard too. But I think when you look at the team, we've been able to play. One line that's really stuck out the last few games because we've been able to play them with confidence, and they're playing with confidence, is the line of Dan DeQuisto, Austin Anderson, and Parker Riggleman. Obviously, Stegora Maple and Marcus Neusen, that line has been with us all year long, playing really good physical hockey. And, of course, the line of Neusen, Oborski, and Nelson, they've been tremendous all season long, scoring goals and giving us a lot of offensive punch. So all three lines maybe have different characteristics, but they all kind of give us that support that we need. And really, you got to have the three lines in the playoffs.
So with the big win over Faribault and the section finals coming up against Rochester Lourdes, what have you heard kind of in the community of people coming up and congratulating you? Are they excited about this in the area?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of people are fired up, and I think, really because I think most people, I think our team believed in ourselves, but I don't know if a lot of people outside the team and maybe their immediate families really believed that we had a shot. And, when you look back to 3 weeks ago where we were at record-wise and things, we just, it probably was, you were looking and saying, man, I just don't see this happening. But I have to say our kids really, really came on at the end of the year. The last 2 weeks of the season, they really went to work, and they were bearing down in practice to get themselves ready. And they just believe in themselves and what we're trying to get across to them, and that's why they've been easy to coach, and they're doing a tremendous job right now.
Great. Thanks for your time. Best of luck against Lourdes.
Thanks a lot, Eric.